When you're ready, Mr. President.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting, September 13th, 2021. Time is 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member Revolt. Present. Member Serretta.
Present.
Member Fonte. Here. Member Peters.
Here.
Member Warren.
Here.
Member Stroya.
Here.
Member Foltz is absent. 6 present.
Motion to excuse Member Foltz. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, first up, we have Street and Alley. Chairman Fonte.
Okay, so what we're talking about today is the roundabout. It's a joint venture with the school system, and it's we're going to apply together for OPWC, which is Ohio Public Works, and it's about a $1.5 million grant. And the goal is really to have about a 200 linear foot. So it's going to be really all the way up. We're going to redo Portage or Charlotte, whatever you want to call it. And there's a section where we own some land, and we have the school to work with us so that we can make the roundabout big enough to accommodate cars, semis, whatever. Because that's some of the comments that I heard was, you know, is it going to be okay to take a semi on? And since there'll be a little bit more activity there because of school drop-offs and pickups and so forth, and hopefully some activity at the Hoover District, this would be the appropriate size to give us the best maximum amount. It'll be like, Rob, I'm sure, can speak on it in more analytical terms, but the gist of it is that's what we want to do. We want to move it to the agenda tonight if there's no questions, or Rob, you can chime in, and it would be on an emergency as well.
Yeah, I think you covered it fairly well. Yeah, we're looking at just improvements to that whole Charlotte corridor to accommodate the new PK to second grade elementary school that North Canton City Schools is doing. And also at the far east end of Charlotte, our 135,000 square foot Diebold addition, the 400 and so employees and 26 semi-truck bays. There's, Charlotte, as you know, is only 2 lanes. We had a traffic impact study done, and we need to have more than that to effectively get the traffic through there. The west terminus, right at the 5-way intersection with Portage, we are proposing a roundabout. That's something that years ago, Member Foltz had a public meeting for his ward in 2015, 2016. We presented, I was actually coincidentally the consultant at that time. I think we had 3 different alternatives, and that was the chosen one by the neighbors there. We had a written survey, and now was sort of the time to go through with that with all the other growth in the area. So what we're looking at doing is applying for Ohio Public Works Commission grant monies. That grant's due at the end of the week, and we're looking to get about not quite 50% of our estimated construction and actually total cost, and the most we can ask for is $1.5 million. And with the school as our formal partner by agreement, we have a stronger collaboration, stronger application against our competitors.
So real quick, I was asking Ben about the map, just because the visual's always important, I think. And so, I don't know if he can just show that one time for the audience, people online, and all the council members.
We would start right there at basically the Portage, Charlotte, Williman 5-way intersection. And we start just slightly west of that. That intersection would be a roundabout right there where the cursor is, where it says Part Outlot 1 or Outlot 5. The city purchased that parcel a number of years ago. So we'd like to shift the roundabout as far to the north as we can get it, but to still have those, have it function properly with our ingress and egress to the roundabout. I've gotten questions too. Obviously, semi-truck and school bus design is a huge factor. We can all point at a few roundabouts in the area as they were becoming popular that were just simply too small and too tight. So we have computer software called One's Auto Turn, where we can program a truck, our largest fire truck, school bus, put those right in the model, and make sure that it can traverse the roundabout. Last thing we want to do is have that and then have 100 and some trucks a day going in and out of Diebold and can't negotiate the thing. So we're in a very preliminary stage right now, knowing that it's a pretty accelerated schedule because it needs to be up and functioning, that whole corridor for Diebold and the schools in August of '23.
Rob, I got a couple of questions from
Yes, sir.
constituents here. Since this has been on the agenda here, I got a few phone calls, and I'm all for aesthetics. I love the look of stuff like that. That's great. But is it functional? Is it going to be functional? That's what they're all asking about.
Yeah, that's a great
And-
question.
and
It has
yeah.
to be functional.
I mean,
or why
'cause we
do
see
it?
the one up at the
So,
airport. It is non-functional.
That's,
Okay?
I
That is
didn't
the
want to.
worst thing you could possibly do, because
Yep.
last thing we want is a name like Malfunction Junction coming into North Canton.
I couldn't
Okay,
agree
so that's
more
the-
with
the
an
last
idea.
thing we want.
Yep.
So, other question that, and I thought these are good questions. You've got Hillcrest, the light there. What happens when that backs up in the morning with all the kids? Does the whole,
The Hillcrest
the light goes away?
The light goes away.
Okay, that
Yep.
answers that question.
Yep.
That's good. That was a good question. I thought, well, I don't know.
No, that's a great question. Yep.
Let's see, what does it say here? A couple other questions. Just, somebody asked me about the other roads that are coming to it aren't really busy roads.
Right.
There's very little traffic on those at all.
Right.
So why are we creating something, we only have 2 busy roads that we go straight? I guess
Right.
we have a third, Portage doesn't get a whole lot. But that was the other question.
Wait, well, Portage will, because with the increased traffic that we
Okay.
have from Diebold, all the employees, 27 school buses, and then they're looking at 400 some odd cars for the parent pickup and AM and PM. And that's a bit staggered from the Diebold shift, because we've talked to them about their shift. And our traffic study mentioned it, that we had done as well. We need all the capacity we can get in that corridor.
Yeah.
And right now, Portage westbound is one, you can't even go.
Yeah.
We have this road right there,
Totally
perfectly
agree.
normal,
It's worthless,
functional
right.
lane that's striped out. This
right.
way, we can reopen Portage to two-way traffic, and we got a road, let's use it. So that will help with that. Williman is, you're right, it's only like 17 feet wide to the south, but it'll come up and kind of bend a little bit to the east-northeast, and then if you want to go west from Williman, you just go around the bulk of the roundabout, like 270 degrees. From Williman coming from the north, basically you'll be forced to just go right. So if someone wants to go into town east, they'll just take Hillcrest or another route. So.
Well, I think it'll be a really cool looking entry. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yep.
I hope we have some plans to continue down Portage, so it doesn't,
Someday,
all of a sudden,
absolutely.
boom.
Yeah, and it's
That's our next big project.
back for that public meeting. It's been part of our grant applications. We did a rendering back in 2015 that really just showed
Yeah,
how cool it could look. So,
good. Thank you
Yep.
for answering all those.
Any other questions? In the mic louder.
Is your red light on?
Press the red button in the front there. The first thing here.
Here we go. Okay. I've seen roundabouts in other communities. To your point, Rob, if they're designed properly, they are highly functional in moving traffic through an intersection.
absolutely.
During the initial period, they are a body man's delight. So all the auto body shops will be happy, but I guess we'll have to deal with that.
Right.
So if it fits, it'll work great. But I think the other thing, when we talk about, and maybe you can clarify this for me, I'm not sure the issue of traffic inbound in the morning, that would be from west to east, is as critical as the outbound traffic in the afternoon. Because as you look at the frontage on Charlotte, my sense is that if you had traffic lights, which we do now, you don't have the ability to really stack up much traffic on that street. The goal of the circle is to move traffic down that street and out of town,
Exactly.
correct?
Exactly, that's the goal of the roundabout. Yeah, and even if there is a collision, it's just very low speed side swipe until the folks get used to them. And one thing to point out, next year the county engineer is going to begin construction on 2 of them in his Pittsburgh corridor. at Pittsburgh and Schuylkill and Pittsburgh at Orion.
Right.
We wouldn't be up and running until the following year. So there'll be even more in our area right close, so for folks to become accustomed
Yeah,
to. 'Cause definitely is a learning
it is really just a matter of getting used to doing it. Once you have one in your community, it becomes second nature.
Right.
But again, as I look at, the school, to your point, is that you really don't have a huge amount of front footage to have cars stopped at traffic light and then backing up all the way up to Main Street.
Right.
That's what you're trying to avoid.
Right.
Okay.
Rob, just an add-on to what I was adding before, now, you're gonna take that light up at Hillcrest.
Yes.
What's that intersection gonna be like? Yeah, there's
We-
some traffic comes down Hillcrest.
Right. We looked at that in the traffic study that we had done. We took the current traffic that we have and then our projected traffic based on Diebold and schools and your normal growth. And right now, a signal's not even warranted there. We've kind of kept it up since I came because you could make the argument for sight distance to see around a couple of the big pine trees and stuff that are there. So the signal's not warranted, and when the build scenario with the roundabout is still not warranted. So as you
You'll
had
never get a
said,
stop. A circle does not stop the flow of traffic.
exactly, it keeps
So
moving.
someone who wants to turn there is gonna have to wait.
They're gonna have to wait, they may go a different route, but
Okay.
it's just the neighborhood there to the north. We think they'll adjust.
Okay.
If there's no more questions, I move this to the agenda then.
All in favor?
Aye.
We need a second.
Aye.
Opposed?
We need a second first.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Rob. Okay, moving on. Finance and Property, Chairwoman Warren.
Okay, we had two different allocations. We had a 13,000 plus for the police department where they had sold some equipment. And then we had different allocations for the sewer administration and then kind of moving it to sewer maintenance, which was pretty much just a wash. So it came up to a total of $13,275. Anything else? Okay. Nothing else, I move to adopt, or move it to the agenda, sorry.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Move that to the agenda as well. Okay, next up, ordinance rules. Chairman Estrella.
Okay, this is just the reconciliation of our ordinance with the state law. It's really that easily explained. There's nothing aside from that. Last year, I think there were only 2 changes. This year, there's 12. So, Ben, would you care to weigh in on that?
Yeah, we do this every year. There's a number of pieces of our code that we borrow directly from the Ohio Revised Code, and so we update them to match on an annual basis, and this is everything that changed in the past calendar year.
Sounds good.
Any questions, comments? I move that we put this on the agenda.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, personnel and safety. We got a couple items here. First off, to increase the position cap for emergency medical technician, paramedic, firefighter. And this is in response, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, we're moving from a volunteer / part-time more into a professional, full-time group.
Yes, this
in
is the
preparation of
challenge that we have today, is that the business model has changed on us. The part-time volunteers aren't part-time volunteers. They have real jobs, doing real things, and that harkens back to the day of the Hoover Company. And we do have the need, if we study our call volume, we average about 280 calls a month, EMS calls, and to staff round the clock. There's just not enough personnel full-time, so we end up relying more on part-time that are paid. But that presents its own challenges because it racks up a lot of overtime. Some of these part-time paid people are working 80, 100 hours a week.
So how many positions will this add, Pat?
That I do not recall. I can text and get you an answer.
This would be an increase of 3 from the current cap, but I don't, from my conversation with Chief, he didn't plan to ask for any new positions in his budget for the coming year.
Right.
It's more of being ready for this is coming.
That is coming, yeah.
Last year.
Not for the increase in staff.
Oh, not for the increase.
Yeah. Daryl?
Are we finished with this? And then I'll just close with a comment.
Yeah, I don't have any further comment. Does anyone else have a comment? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, I think Pat has alluded to it. Our safety forces, fire and EMS, have evolved since the Hoover days.
Yeah, Chief Bacon confirmed that it is an increase of 3 in capacity, but we are not budgeting next year to hire anybody into those 3.
Anything else, Patrick? This goes back to a question that perhaps some future council might want to contemplate, and that is, you know, what, I just laid this out. What's your role for fire EMS? Do you want it? There are other options out there, but this may be the best of the options. But the reality is, as Patrick has indicated, you've got 280 runs a month, and it's got to be staffed. And you've got to find a way to pay for it, because clearly the levies that we have don't. We're subsidizing with income tax. And as we all know in our collective bargaining, those costs go up annually. And there's very little relief in that bargaining process if one understands Ohio collective bargaining law. So this is a challenge for small communities like ours, is how do you maintain service? How do you pay for it? And hopefully some future council will sit down and take a look and determine the path they want to pursue. But for right now, this is it.
Hey, Daryl, I remember us talking that when Patrick was working on the negotiations last time around, that we did reserve a right to have conversation about healthcare cost, correct?
Yes.
So that would be the only option we have going forward as the cost increases, the healthcare. And is there a larger participation amount that, you know, I mean, it's first-class healthcare for sure. So that would be something the future council is going to have to look at.
Well, to address that, that's a great question. Let's keep in mind that the health care is collectively bargained for, which and the benefits are specified in the contract that make change difficult. So what we did this last time around is that, and we started with the police department, and we were able to successfully negotiate into that the creation of a healthcare committee comprised of administration, council, and all the collective bargaining units to talk about ways that we can get our healthcare costs down by changing what has been bargained for, and to lay out, okay, these are, you know, what happens if you make these changes. So this next go-around that we're beginning to work on now, we will be requesting alternative quotes to show and demonstrate that not only is it, you know, an increase to your out-of-pocket as an employee, not just to the city. And I think that, you know, with the increases that we saw this last time around, I think we've managed to get some attention and focus on this issue by the collective bargaining groups. And then there's, lots of other things that we look at in comparison. It used to be that one of the features that you could attract employees to municipal government was the health care insurance. But probably in the day, it was ahead of its time. But in today's marketplace, we're finding it, more and more, it has its advantages, but not like it used to. So we're talking to people who are working, that we're trying to recruit to come here, and the health insurance is not that big a deal as it used to be.
Everybody has that.
I'm sorry?
Everybody has it now. I mean,
Everybody has
yeah.
it. And we do run into the ones where, somebody might have a mega deductible, $5,000 deductible plan or something like that, they're not happy about. We don't have that. But these are things that we want to show people as to, hey, you don't want your paycheck going down. And we all know, as we negotiated for this, that, look, if we do nothing, this movie doesn't end well. Because here's what happens. You don't like that your net pay is reduced because of the increasing cost of health care, so then you come back and you say, we want a higher adjustment to our pay because of that, and that just can't continue to be a circle that goes round and round, because ultimately then we reach a point where the wages are too high, and we say, you know what, to what a member Revolt said, there are other options to provide that level of service. So we're not at that point, but we think we've gotten ahead of it. And as the other collective bargaining unit agreements come up, which we have at the end of this year, fire and EMS, we will be talking to them about adopting the language that was in the 3 police contracts regarding the healthcare committees.
One final comment. I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not advocating that we go outside. No. Our people do a terrific job. They're great value for cost. But I think sometimes that conversation, as Patrick indicated, is helpful to remind our constituents this is really what you're paying for. Yeah. This is what makes the town the town.
Well, we've gone down that road before. We've gone down that road before with dispatch.
We've gone down that road. And sometimes you have to revisit it just to remind people.
Well, the pitfalls there were...
They're enormous.
Yeah.
And, I like to think that in terms of our people, you won't find any better. Mm-hmm. And I just don't want our constituents to take them for granted. I know there's a cost. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if I'm turning blue and face down in the shag, I don't want a guy that's, we're paying less than Walmart, sticking the needle in my arm.
Right.
I'm done.
All right.
Well, I think we'll leave it with that comment. Anyone else have any comment?
Nope.
Okay, I'll motion to move this to the agenda.
Revolt will move.
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, moving on. Amending Chapter 155, hiring practices, and to eliminate the requirement that job postings be published in the newspaper. This is a result of our survey. And Pat, if you want to.
Yeah, this is certainly the survey questions play a part in that, but I think Catherine and I can attest to that the number of vacancies that we filled. I am confident that 0 came from reading the repository, but came from LinkedIn, and that's how we got to Gina, was from LinkedIn.
You didn't find us in the paper, did you?
No. So.
Network through LinkedIn.
The marketplace is much more sophisticated now in how you're getting to people. And we're actually approaching a point where in some key positions, you got to go out and recruit.
Right.
You can't wait for them to come. You got to go identify somebody and go out and snatch them, get them away.
As someone who's hired people for many years, over the years, I rarely use the newspaper, to be honest with you. I love the repository, okay, but, local, but we always use job sites and different ways of going through. Now, you're paying an extreme amount of money
Costly.
to go to use something that people aren't using, so I think this is a wise move.
It'll save a lot of money. Ads that are so small, we try to keep the character count as low as possible, are still $600-700.
Yeah.
And we're doing multiple ads.
Per publication, right?
Per publication. It's how the repository is making their money now. I mean, years and years, you remember before, there was all those columns of one ads, they're gone now. When you pick up a paper, it's just not in there.
Right.
But we were still required by this to do that posting, so.
It's on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Repository.
Hey, don't knock it.
Yeah.
I got something under now.
Okay, any further comment, question on that? Is there a motion to move this to the agenda?
Revolt will move.
Throw seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, moving on, community and economic development. Chairman
Three
Revolt.
items. The first
Yeah,
item, we have a request to send to the Planning Commission a recommendation that the regulation for the height of a swimming pool fence be reduced from 5 feet to 4 feet. In conversation with Marty today, he reminded me that 4 feet is consistent with the International Code Council's model code. So this is not a one-off, but it is actually an industry standard. And there are some practical reasons why this matter has come before us. A 4-foot fence is, shall we say, stock, Marty, as opposed to the more difficult 5-footers that people generally don't carry in the inventory and tend to be more expensive. Good summary?
Perfectly.
Thank you. Questions? So again, we're not making a decision tonight. We're sending this recommendation to the Planning Commission for its review, and it will return it to us. Comments or questions?
I have a comment. This has been on the ZBOA a couple times, I think 3 times in the last 2 years. So I think it's time to put this back to the Planning Commission and make a change.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a personal thing. It's too late for me because I already paid for a 5-foot fence, but it is an extreme inconvenience. So I think it's just a great idea. For, like he said, Home Depot and Lowe's don't do it. So
No.
you can't do it yourself. So you've got to pay someone to do it, which increases the cost of everybody. And to get from a 4 to a 5, it's especially now in today's market, you're waiting months to get it because they don't stock it.
Yeah.
Nobody stocks 5-foot fences because nobody uses 5-foot fences but us. So, and we don't put too many pools in, so it's not like a big deal. But now people are putting more pools in. So I think this is a great idea. I think this will help our people in saving and getting some things done a little bit quicker. Safety-wise, there's really a 4-foot or 5-foot. The idea of a pool fence is so kids don't accidentally walk in.
Yeah.
They're not jumping over a 4-foot fence either. So that's my side of the things, being right in there with it and everything. And in the majority of times you put a 5-foot over a 4, depending on the amount of area you have, you're talking $3,000 to $5,000 difference. Wow. So, and a lot of wait time. So I think there's a lot of logical reasons to go to 4 on this. And so I hope that,
Yeah.
thanks Daryl for bringing that up.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
It's time. We've been talking about it a long time.
Okay, well, can I have a motion then to
So
push
moved.
this forward?
Story seconds.
All in favor?
All
Aye.
right.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on. This is, item 7B, is the lighting for the Main Street North Gateway. You remember we had some discussion. We sent it to the Planning Commission. We ask it to consider increasing the pole height to 25 feet to include including the base, and to make it as a conditional use. And it has come back to us. And what we need to do tonight is to schedule a public hearing. And it's my understanding that that public hearing could be conducted on October 18th at 6:45.
I have been reminded that that is the night Gina and Patrick are hoping to bring you all the budget.
Do you have another night that we can do this?
So October 18th is the first night that is late enough that I could meet the 30-day publishing window, so any meeting after that is
Mr.
fine.
Clerk, pick a date.
Yeah, well, how long is that going to take, Daryl? I mean, we
It'll
can-
take all of about 5, well, I don't know how long it's going to take,
Depends on
Probably.
public.
because we have people who,
So why can't we just come at 6:45?
Pardon?
Why don't we do it at 6:45?
Want to do it at 6:45?
We can,
I'm good with that.
I was asked to remind you that that is the same night as budget.
Let's approach it this way. Let's do it at 6:45. If we have more comment than time, we can always bring it back for additional. We've met our initial publication requirement. We can kick it to another Monday night, and I think still be in compliance. Fair enough? Okay, so if we run out of time at 7, we'll just extend it over to another Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion for the 18th at 6:45 PM?
Motion.
It's been moved. Second?
Troy seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good, thank you. All right. Now the fun part. We're going to revisit our zoning map for the 215 parcels. What I'd like to do is approach it the same way we did it last time, moving through them item by item. And Ben has been in contact with folks. And Ben, I'm going to rely upon you to tell us whether I've got my notes, but tell us whether we're going to authorize action on that alphabetical item. We ready?
Yep.
Okay. What page do we have this on, Ben?
25.
There should be
I
a
got it on
cheat
20.
sheet in your packets.
Yeah, that's
I've got on
25.
page 25.
Yeah.
The cheat sheet starts on page 25,
Got it.
and then we're over actually onto page 28 as the items themselves in the language. So why don't we can we work off page 28?
Yeah.
That's the one to me that matters. Okay.
You want me to start just
Yes,
down the
please,
list? All right.
just go right ahead.
Letter A, after talking to the property owners, as we discussed at the public hearing, they're requesting that this moves forward but flipped from what it was originally proposed to as. So instead of changing instead of changing the front half, we're changing the back half.
Any questions or comments? Is there any property owner here who has an interest?
Why don't you put out, is there any property owners at all?
Are there any property owners at all?
Yeah,
Because I'll go right to that one next.
yeah, that's good.
Nobody here? Okay.
Nobody here? Okay, all right, so your recommendation for A is that we adopt the language as presented in the draft, correct? 4721.
As presented in the draft you have tonight, yes, which is an amendment from what Planning Commission said.
Right, and that is on page 28, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is okay with everyone? Ben?
B, no changes.
So that is okay? Go ahead.
C, Marty and I had a meeting with this property owner over the past week. And from my takeaway from that conversation, I hope Marty had the same one, is they would like us to take this off for now. They're considering different options with their property, potentially even a replat before it gets rezoned. And so at the moment, the current plan as we left it is they will bring back their own zoning application for their property when they've decided what they want.
So we will mark item C hold. No action. Okay, D?
D and E, I recommended we consolidate because they have the same property owner. This is the one where we had some confusion with Mr. Kidder over whose property it was.
Yeah.
It is the chapel's property. So if you'll see on your screen, this sort of blue rectangle is the chapel's property. The part that is being rezoned is this bottom hang off here. So it is the chapel's property. If I turn on zoning here, you can see that just that hang off is zoned R70 and the rest of the parcel is zoned PNI.
So to be clear, it was not in fact Tim's property?
It is not in
It
fact
is not
his
his property.
Okay.
Okay, so we are going to combine D and E, and those will proceed. Item F?
F, and then I'll talk about G at the same time, say the same concern. That was Ms. Benefield came and said something about a gas line and some utility easements. If there is, in fact, a Dominion, which I have no reason to believe there isn't, but if there is, in fact, a Dominion gas main there, whatever we zone it wouldn't change the fact that you can't build on top of the gas main.
So F and G are okay to proceed. H?
H and I just consolidate with each other. Their properties becoming the same thing right next to each other. Same with J, K, and L, just consolidate them into one amendment. M has already been rezoned with the new Main Street zoning, so I recommend removing that entirely. N and O, no changes. P was sort of mistakenly included and should not have been included in the first place, and so remove that entirely. Q, no changes. R, and I'll jump down to T. Jeff, you had asked us to put a hold and look deeper into these. These are the properties at the back of Washington Square. From conversations with administration, they're fine leaving it parks and institutional. I have not reached out to the property owner yet to ask if they're fine with that. Any other comments on this particular property?
It's the right move.
So we'll place this on hold, correct?
Yeah,
I thought you wanted to leave it at parks.
yeah, so if we're leaving it at parks, we would just cut it
Keep it
entirely.
Cut it,
Yeah.
delete,
Remove?
okay? And the same for S?
S has no changes. T, T is a part of a, you had said put it on hold as well, but
Yeah.
it's already a developed parking lot for an office building. It's similar to the Chapel property we just looked at, where it's a slice of a larger parcel that isn't zoned like the rest of the parcel.
Okay.
So I would say we let that one move forward.
Okay.
U, no changes. V, no changes. W, the parcel number and the lot number are typographically incorrect.
10010198 is the correct number?
Yes.
Okay.
X, the property owners have requested that this be removed entirely.
Okay.
Which one was that? I guess the better question is, which one relates to the parcels in the sanctuary? Mike? No, that relates to the parcels in the sanctuary?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Do you remember which one that was, Daryl?
There were like three of them,
Yeah.
right? Because you had the center and then you had the,
Yeah, that center island.
P is the sanctuary.
Okay. The next one's the big one.
And we did mark P to be
Yeah, it was
removed.
P.
Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead.
This one is over by the Walsh football field. Why? The condos. So we left this at sort of a hold and a bit of confusion because condos, as our zoning code is currently written, don't really fit perfectly into any of our existing zoning districts. In a conversation with Chairman Revolt, an idea he threw out is that perhaps a better way to do this would be to cut the condos for now, and as we continue to move forward in our zoning review, consider making them their own district in the future that more accurately reflects what they are.
Thank you.
So we'll move forward with that plan then?
Pardon?
So we'll move forward with cutting this for now,
Yeah,
and
we're
we'll
gonna just
revisit
delete-
condos
just delete it.
in the future. Z, no changes. AA, no changes. BB, no changes. CC, no changes. DD, no changes. EE and FF should be consolidated. All of them should be becoming GBA, and then that added parcel is American Tire, which is contiguous to the other two. Okay. GG, no changes. HH and NN can be consolidated with each other. II, no changes. JJ, no changes. KK should be cut entirely. LL can be consolidated with JJ. MM, no changes. We already did NN. OO through UU and WW are all a collection of parcels around the hospital across from Price Park. They are all becoming the same thing. I'm not sure why they were separated into individual amendments each, but they can all be consolidated into one. This area is becoming GBA amendment. VV, no changes. XX, no changes. YY, this is St. Paul's, should be cut at the owner's request. ZZ, no changes. AA, AAA, no changes. Triple B, no changes. And Triple C was already rezoned with the Main Street zoning, and so we should cut.
And Ben, just to confirm, YY was the single-family homes that they're renting out? St.
Yes.
Paul's? Okay.
And we had,
And Mr. Beinlake understands that should the use of those change, St. Paul's will need to come back for a zone change.
Okay.
Again, he clearly understands that.
Thanks, Ben.
if we do vote to enact all of these changes, we will need to send it back to the Planning Commission to be reconsidered, as this initially came to us from the Planning Commission.
Okay,
We do?
so, does anybody want to spend more time on this? Are you sure?
I think
Then I will
I think we're done.
accede to the majority will and motion that we send this to the Planning Commission.
Second, we looking for a second?
I am looking for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sure? Thanks, Mr. Peters.
All right.
Okay, Ben, thank you. This was a huge back office lift.
Yeah.
And,
Huge.
Well done,
you know,
Daryl. I know it's a lot of work.
He's done a great job, and, you know, talking to people and stuff, terrific. So thank you, Ben.
Okay.
I think we've got everybody's reasonably happy.
Credit to Marty and Bruce Bernhardt as well for their efforts.
You know, just as a final editorial comment, I think, you know, one of the things that for the council, it just underscores how critical the back office entity is. When you look at the list of properties we're changing and realigning, this is a big deal. And it just, credit to the administration and Ben and Marty getting it done. Because some of this stuff's pretty old.
Well,
Okay.
and the turnaround from all of our questions from that original meeting is pretty quick, too. I mean,
Yeah,
that's solid.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Good job. Okay, done.
Okay, that concludes this agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Revolt moves.
For a second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, we are adjourned. At this time, I'd like to call a regular council meeting to order, September 13th, 2021. The time is 7:44 PM. Mark, would you like to lead us in
I think
prayer?
Reverend Ponte wants to do it tonight.
Reverend?
I'll let him do it.
All right. Everyone, please stand.
Lord, thank you for the opportunity to come before the peoples and remember that 911 was 20 years ago. We don't ever want to forget the sacrifices of all the men and women and the shock and all that we had to experience. Let's not forget. Let's remember to be loving and compassionate to one another. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ben, please call the roll.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Peters?
Here.
Member Shreda?
Here.
Member Fonte?
Here.
And Member Volt? Here. Member Foltz is absent, 6 present.
Motion to excuse Member Foltz.
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, for your consideration, I need a motion and a second to approve as presented. Minutes, August 23rd, City Council. Minutes, August 23rd, public hearing. August 2021 Finance Report, and stock ownership change for liquor permit at 1474 North Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, at this time, if you wish to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton, Ohio. How many of you sitting before us right now have reviewed and looked at the recent citywide survey for 2021?
Mr. Tripp, I'm pleased to say that I have. I've
Thank you.
conducted a detailed analysis.
Seeing
And
just
in fact, just let me interrupt here. Oh,
I'm sorry you're
Go
interrupting
ahead.
me.
Never mind, I apologize.
May I start over, Mr. President?
Please, give me a new start.
Have at it.
How many of you have studied the 2021 citywide survey? Seen only one?
No.
That's par for the, two.
Oh, come
We've all
Oh,
looked
3,
at it.
4, boy, now they're coming.
We've
Now
all
they're
looked at
coming,
it.
surprises me. But anyway, let this be a lesson that it took so long for you to, raise your hand. But anyway, to me, that's kind of an insult for anyone that worked on the survey, or even the residents that spent a total of 40 and a half hours of public commitment in completing it. That, 3-4 city before me viewed it. So, like other surveys of the past, I'm sure we're going to soon find this in file 13, or just merely taking up space on in the computer world. Why? Because results of this survey did not meet the expectation of North Canton city government. Take, for example, the steady decline of citizen confidence in city council. Pretty much solidifies the views of this speaker's remarks of government in North Canton over the past 10 or 12 years, and refutes Councilman Revolt's comment of young people becoming active in city government. Between ages of 18 and 34, there were a total of 85 respondents, with only 12 being between the ages of 18 and 24. Sir, pay raises don't do it, other than to appease our current members of council. On June 28th, we heard comments from the chairperson of the 2021 North Canton Master Plan. My enthusiasm was quite high for attending the citizen sessions of their meetings. However, this quickly vanished after learning the chairperson and roughly 70% of the steering committee were non-members of North Canton. I then revisited the minutes of the 28th council meeting, and my decision said an immediate no to any citizen meetings. Remarks made to the city council regarding the 2021 city master plan, and I read from minutes of that meeting. Now the question that we are posing, the what, is what do we want to hear? Do we want to become and stay a small, sleepy little senior citizen for the future? Or do we want to compete against the Greens, the Woosters, the Kents, and need I say Hudson? And then we had an interruption by Councilwoman Warren, which says, thank you. Back to the speech. When I read in the paper, when I read in the paper that we got a huge chunk of Debo business, I was joyful, but I'm greedy. I want the whole thing. What were we missing? Why couldn't we have gotten the headquarters? End quote. Mayor Wilder, Administrator DiOrio, and Councilman Peters in revolt. I am greedy. Is that the mindset of this city government, of our present government? I am greedy. It sure looks like it. It's often been said by Councilman Revolt. After Councilman Revolt, negative comments by public speakers may result in opinions being created in the minds of those representing new business, etc. What could be more negative than I am greedy? Aggressive is one thing, but I am greedy should not be in the mindset of North Canton government. Mr. Mayor, or any other council person running for re-election, as I look at the timetable of my remarks tonight, it suggests that these may be a tool for re-election. They have failed badly, as greed is not in the minds of North Canton citizens who put and work for the betterment, who put effort and work for the betterment of North Canton. Furthermore, comparing Main Street of 10 years ago to our present Main Street suggests that greed doesn't work. Greed does not work. Mr. Mayor, when you were elected, sorry he's not here today, but when you were elected, we expected transparency and growth along Main Street. We have anything but. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let the record reflect, I think it was intimated at the beginning of his speech that he was curious how many members reviewed the survey. Did we not do that in an open meeting?
Mm-hmm. We talked about the survey.
And you had a,
We did have a PowerPoint, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Well,
thought.
and we talked about it because that's why we are in the repository.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
Maybe you missed that meeting. Okay, anyone else wishing to address council? Chuck?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. In a March 13, 2017 repository story, Superintendent Jeff Wendorf is quoted as stating, and I quote, "The existing 10.3-acre Greentown intermediate property is too small for an elementary school that would need roughly 19 acres." Close quotes. The reference to needing 19 acres no doubt comes from guidelines detailed in the Ohio School Design Manual authored by the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. Per the OSDM, the new elementary would actually require 19.88 acres, as it's going to have 988 students. How is it that the 9.6-acre Charlotte property is now chosen for North Canton's young children? A sizable portion of the Charlotte property is included in property restrictions adopted by the Stark County Health Department in 2002. The restrictions, identified as Resolution 3-2002, result from the presence of TCE, PCE, and other various daughter products in water samples from a number of monitoring wells within an area defined in the resolution. One must ask, what is the financial impact of this incredibly flawed decision by the North Canton City School District to build on the Charlotte site for citizens, nearby institutions, and businesses? Well, first of all, we got the added mitigation costs for the building of $300,000 estimated at this moment. That's added construction cost. The North Canton Library is frantic about losing their parking. They have gone out and are attempting to purchase 4 residential properties on Portage, and in a bizarrest arrangement, then turn around and donating those properties to the city schools. Anyway, the 4 parcels, along with spending $191,000 for their own new parking lot, is costing them $840,000 approximately. The North Canton YMCA daycare has been forced to start a fundraising campaign to raise $185,000 to relocate their playground. The North Canton Heritage Society, about 8 years ago, had a fundraiser to raise $100,000 to build a new entrance to the Portage building. Now that's going to be all just torn down when they tear down the Portage School. Chase Bank has been chased off their parking facilities and have made other arrangements. In a previous commentary, I had figured road widening for Charlotte would cost an estimated $800,000. Public Records Request has uncovered plans that city officials want much more than simple road widening for Charlotte. Actual costs are far from my previous estimate, and what City Hall is planning is mind-numbing to say the least. Estimated Charlotte Street Improvement Project, almost $2.7 million. $1 million of that is for a turnaround or a circle, whatever you want to call it. It's a waste. It would also require acquisition of properties. They've already purchased a small parcel on the northeast corner of Willamette and Charlotte for $7,500. The CIC did that. Did this council, was they consulted on that? The northwest corner of Willamette and Charlotte will need to be purchased. It's an 87-year-old woman. Nobody's even talked to her. Who wants a traffic circle coming right by your kitchen window? The big ghost unknown is the Spitzer property. It will have to be acquired in total or in partial. I'm guesstimating $1.2 million. A traffic impact study has already been expended for $14,000. These added costs attributed solely because the North Canton School District insists on constructing a school on the undersized and contaminated 9.6 acre Charlotte property and nowhere else. Totals almost $4 million. You could build elsewhere and save that kind of money. North Canton Citizens for Safe Schools have advocated for building at the Northwood Elementary property or elsewhere. Lastly, the Portage Charlotte roundabout is an utter waste of taxpayer dollars and will not alleviate expected traffic congestions. And I will add, I've been looking at that myself for 15 years. If you acquire the last 4 or 5 parcels on the north side of Portage, you can make a straight line into Charlotte, and that'd be a much more functional way to approach this.
Mr. Osborne, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Chuck, just hand them to the clerk and he'll pass them out to us.
I'm sorry?
Just hand them to the clerk, he'll pass them out to us. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. It's a hard act to follow. All right, moving on. May I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 53-21?
Volt moves.
Wait a second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to prepare and submit an application to the Ohio Public Works Commission for a grant for the Charlotte Street Improvement Project, further authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with North Canton City Schools for said grant, and, if awarded, authorizing the mayor, upon Board of Control approval, to enter into an agreement for the receipt of said grant and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you, Chairman Fonte.
We were talking about this in the meeting of the whole, and this is pertaining to the Charlotte Street project in conjunction with the school district. We're applying for a grant for 1.5 mil with the Ohio Public Works Commission, and it's going to do a lot of work on Portage as well as the roundabout, big enough to accommodate the bigger vehicles that we were concerned about, school bus, semis / fire truck. So it's on an emergency. I don't know if we have enough people, but I move that...
Before you move, Could I make a motion that we suspend the requirement for a committee report? I will make that
Oh.
motion.
The rule is we have to have a vote in committee, which we just did. So that constitutes the report.
You're going to, but you have no minutes.
We have not yet approved minutes.
That is correct.
Let's have that motion.
It's your pleasure, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
I agree. I agree with you, Daryl.
I would have a committee report, which you don't have. Suspend the rule.
Yeah. All right, so,
I'm just going to make a motion, you suspend the
Yeah,
rule for a
please.
report.
why don't we include for all the items on
I
the
second
agenda
that.
tonight?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it as an omnibus.
Yes.
For items 7, 7B, 7C, 7D.
Did you say C?
Yes.
Yep. 7E
And F.
and F.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Story seconds.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Daryl. Okay, Chairman Fonte, we good?
We're good.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the first reading, ordinance
Revolt moves.
53-21?
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 53-21 under suspension.
Sort of move.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only 54-21?
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of funds of the city of North Canton to be appropriated for current expenses during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Chairwoman Warren.
So these were 2 expenses, totaling $13,000 and some, regarding the policeman selling some equipment, and then just a wash in the sewer department and reallocation. No other questions? I move to adopt.
Story
Second.
seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
So moved.
Moves.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt 54-21 under suspension.
So moved.
Story seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 55-21?
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance to approve and adopt current replacement pages to the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you. Chairman Stroya.
All right, we just discussed this in the committee of the whole. This is reconciling with the state laws. Any comments or questions? I move we adopt.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council?
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 55-21 under suspension.
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 56-21?
Story moves.
Revolt seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance amending Chapter 135, Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Service, specifically Section 135.03, Personnel of the codified ordinances of the City of North Canton to increase the position cap for emergency medical technician, paramedic, firefighters.
Okay, we went over this in committee. Director DiOrio told us why, moving into a full-time professional staff. So if there's no further comment, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the first reading ordinance 56-21?
Revolt moves.
We're in second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 57-21?
Revolt moves.
Story seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance amending Chapter 155 Personnel Regulations, specifically Section 155.03 Hiring Practices of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Canton to eliminate the requirement that job postings be published in a newspaper.
All right, and this is a direct result of a survey question that was put out to the constituents. It's going to save us a large sum of money, and which this survey was reviewed in an open public meeting. May I have a motion and a second to adopt first reading ordinance 57-21?
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, may I have a motion and a second to read by title only, Resolution 13-21?
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
A resolution submitting amendments to the City of North Canton zoning code, specifically Chapter 1133, Single-Family and Two-Family Residential District Regulations, subsection 1133.08D, Swimming Pools, for consideration in accordance with Chapter 1181 of the Codified Ordinances and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Thank you. Chairman Revolt.
As we discussed, we're referring to the Planning Commission a recommendation that it reduce the height of a fence at a swimming pool from 5 feet to 4 feet, consistent with the international code. Is there any additional discussion?
Sir.
Motion to move we adopt the first reading?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? May I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings?
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And finally, a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 13-21 under suspension.
Revolt moves.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Department reports. Deputy Director of Administration.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilman Fontaine mentioned, it is hard to believe September 11th was 20 years ago. But I think on that terrible day, we did all find out how important first responders were to us. So in honor of that, last Friday, we had a first responder appreciation dinner held over at Dogwood. And I'd like to just thank those that were involved in making that so nice for our police and fire and their families. That was Van Ostren and Young and Associates. We had Coots Insurance, Mission Barbecue, Derek and Tara Ray with Kona Ice, and DJ Bill Manis. And they all donated their services. Food was all donated. They had snow cones and things with the Kona Ice for the kids and families, and somebody there making little balloon animals. So it was a nice appreciation night Friday night. I just wanted to give an update on the Dogwood project. So the Orchard lot, which is the Mason's lot, the Masonic lot on Orchard, it's underway. If you've driven past there, you'll see that the concrete curbing is finished. There's a pathway, and they have poured the pad for the pavilion that'll be constructed on there. As discussed before, where we were in a holding pattern with the EPA approval from Stark Soil and Water Conservation District, that has now been granted approval. So I talked before about the water quantity and water quality issues that we were working on, they were working on. We've gotten all of that approved with meeting all the EPA requirements on the submittals. So they are mobilizing with the excavation team on Monday, this coming Monday. They're going to be dual working in multiple areas of the site, finishing up Orchard lot, heading over there to the Dogwood Playground. Important date to note, September 22nd to October 12th, they are going to mill out the 7th Street parking lot. So we're going to relocate rentals if they want to relocate. And just so everyone knows, that will be the parking lot reconstruction or the new construction over there. I have the project schedule now. We're just going to go full force. We have full approval, and we're looking at, through October to November, of course, weather permitting. So fingers crossed that we have some dry, warm weather so we can continue. And then just quickly, sort of a personnel HR update, wanted to let everyone know we had a great all city employee training we held here at the Civic Center. It was, we called it Respect Training. It was inclusive of sexual harassment, hostile work environment, diversity, sensitivity training. And that's really important in today's environment to make sure all employees are up to speed on how to behave in the workplace and be very respectful, so that was great attendance. And this Wednesday, here also at the Civic Center, we are holding our first official city health fair. This is sponsored by MMO with a wellness grant that they're giving us, and we're going to have our employees come here. We have 41 employees that voluntarily registered to have a biometric screening done, and that'll give them a personalized health statement. We have multiple health vendors coming from YMCA to Powerhouse Gym, Fit One's a personal training place, Lady Super Fitness, Fresh Time. So the goal is really to just increase wellness awareness in all our employees and, you know, be the most healthy, fit public servants we can be to serve our community. So that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks.
Director of Administration.
You're all welcome to come to that health fair.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying that you're welcome.
Okay.
That's all.
Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m.
No report.
Thank you, Patrick.
Wow.
Oh, let the record reflect Mayor Wilder has joined us, and with that, do you have any remarks?
Yes, thank you. Apologize for the delay. I was at another meeting at the North Kansas City School District for their athletic facilities. I wanted to see what they had to offer for their master plan. Really just a comment on the 9/11 events that occurred in our city and in the county. I want to thank Van Ostrom, Young and Coots for their Family Appreciation Day for evening for our first responders. They had some activities and meals provided for all of our first responders and families Friday night at Dogwood Shelter. I want to thank them for taking that time to do that. This is their second year for doing it, and that they plan on continuing and supporting our first responders. Also, I want to thank Steve Toohey for providing the flags, once again, from his Flags of Freedom project for that facility. And some people may not realize, but at St. Paul's Church at 12:15 on Wednesdays, they do a patriotic rosary. I've had the opportunity to attend a couple of those, and they're very, very rewarding to think about that. And really, just from the time that, from that weekend, it was just a time, I think, for reflection, and each in our own way, whether it was a community-sponsored event or a citywide event. There are a number of things going on in the county that we all could participate in or visit. But hopefully that will be a time that we'll never forget, and that, but our lives go on, and we'll continue to do the good work that we're here to do. So thank you very much for that time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, next up, Director of Finance.
Thank you. I just want to highlight the income tax receipts. We keep a pretty close eye on those. And with all of the changes in the past couple of years with the filing deadlines and the teleworking and the withholding laws, and so we've really been watching not just where we are year to date, because cash flow has been a little bit difficult to project month to month because of all those deadlines that keep changing. However, year to date, we are on target. We're still have an increase showing of 2.8% at this point. And then we started just diving in a little bit deeper and deciding where are we with withholding versus the individual versus the net profit. And so we don't need to pull it up, but if you have a chance to look at your graph in the report, I added just a small statistic on the bottom of the income tax page. Our withholding over the past 6 years has been right around 66%, and we're at 63%. So that tells us our businesses are still doing very well in North Canton. Individuals usually right around 22%, and they're at 25%. So our individuals in North Canton are also still holding jobs and doing well. And then our net profits average around 12%, and they're right at 12%. So we feel pretty good about and strong about our projection. We don't have any changes to that just yet through the year.
All right, good news. Thank you, Gina. All right, next up, Engineer Graham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very happy to report that about 3:30 today, we finished our paving portion of the North Main project. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. Actually, about a week and a half ahead of schedule. Final asphalt was supposed to be a week from Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday. And
That went a lot better than expected, too.
Pardon me?
Went a lot better than expected.
Yeah, it went very well. We've got a lot of cleanup to do. Talked to the contractor about that today. You know, tomorrow he'll be getting the big chunks of pavement that we shovel to the gutter. And then right down with a leaf blower, the sidewalk the whole way, 7th to Orient, and then they'll run their street sweeper on it. So we'll get that all buttoned up in the next few days. And then Monday or Tuesday, we're looking at our permanent striping, weather dependent, but get that striped. As you've seen, it's just the very light dashes to show the lane configurations. We don't want to put that on too dark because then it shows through and looks unsightly. So, yeah, we're quite happy with it.
Well done, Brian. Thank you.
The finish is very sweet. That's the polymer on top, I'm sure.
That is your preferred polymer asphalt, yes, 3/4 of an inch.
It's beautiful. Awesome. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, Council Clerk?
As part of the budget efforts this year, my office, with help from administration and every department in the city, performed a kind of review of all these specialty softwares that we have and utilize throughout the city. And after reviewing all of those, we've sort of put together a sketch of an action plan to hopefully move forward to get more bang for our buck and save the city money in the process, hopefully.
I like that.
Very
That's all
nice.
right.
That it? That's enough. Thank you, Ben. All right, Member Warren.
Okay. And I know I said it last time, but I've just had some requests from different constituents, and I've had to contact Marty and Rob and even Pat, and it's so nice. You guys always get back to me, and there have been funny messages half the time, and I just appreciate your comments and you explaining it, and you just put it in language that I can understand, and then really, I guess, pass on to my constituents. So I just appreciate that, because timely correspondence is difficult a lot of times these days, and it means a lot. So thank you again for that. And the same with Gina. We've been talking about the budget, and she reached out to all of us, and I know we've taken advantage of that. And I appreciate that, because for you to ask and say, not only what do each departments want, they're the experts, so we would totally rely on that. And I think we have a really good budget process. But also as us trying to say maybe what we want in our certain areas, or even as a city as a whole, or looking at the report that we've just gone over, and what do we want as a city and going forward. That was really, I think, helpful for you to just kind of say to us that. I mean, I think we're really in a good position, because like I said, in mine I said, boy, I have really good parks. I just had some pickleball courts. I had some new playground equipment. I have some really good streets. Yes, we're looking at some zoning things, but a lot is really good, and we're fortunate as a city to say that. But I appreciated you asking, and even though we know it's the mayor's budget, it's important that we all agree, and it doesn't look good if he says, no, I don't agree with anything you council say or want. So I think that was important. And then, Ben, you also asked us to come in and talk about the council budget, and we met with you with that. And it was really a good discussion, because we even talked about a few different things, that maybe we might be looking at, that maybe weren't on the budget. And I had talked to Gina about that today, and we even talked about a dog park and looking up some things in an area of the city that maybe there, isn't a dog park, and like you said, maybe there's a grant opportunity. How to convey more information. Daryl and I have talked about newsletters and different things, but that doesn't happen if you're not asking, and so I appreciate, that very much. So I just wanted to highlight that, because I don't think that happens in all governments. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good comment, Steph. All right, Member Fonte.
Thanks, everybody, for their service. Appreciate the input. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Not bad, Dominic. Thank you. Member Revolt.
Yes. It's interesting, as I listen to public speaks, there are opinions, and then there are informed opinions. Main Street is a challenge, particularly that section of Main Street that extends from probably 7th Street south because that is the oldest part of Main Street. And what we know is that, yes, there are some vacancies there. We also know that not only are the structures older, but the lots are smaller and constitute a challenge for business use. We also know that when a building owner wishes to sell, he may also have a very unrealistic estimation of the property's value, which leaves it vacant for a period of time. As I look at Main Street today, I have to factor in COVID and what effect has it had on certain types of businesses that might be suitable candidates for some of the businesses, empty spots along Main Street. I don't know. But I do know that small business has taken a hit in the last 18 months. There are constituents who would have us believe that their unlicensed and uninformed comments have no impact on the outside. But I can tell you this, right now, that we have a constituent with us tonight that single-handedly kept Panera from coming into our community. That could have been an attraction for other businesses. So comments do matter.
Mr. Osborne?
Comments do matter.
Come on, man. You know better than that.
We have had constituents up here who are against everything. And they've voiced their opinions against every economic development initiative we have taken over the last 36 months. One in particular was Adam Abadora. It's terrible. I talked to one of the property owners, one of the business owners last week. And you know what he told me? He said, can we do this again? I made in one day net an entire month's rent. Now, if you're a small business guy, that's how you weather the lean months, by banking the money you make at Main Street.
Amen.
His argument, his request was, can you do a couple more of these for me to see me through the lean time? I listened to this. People complain about Diebold. You don't want to fix the road. You want to do anything. All right, let's not fix it. And when the lease is up and they go away, then we'll wring our hands and wonder how in the hell do we get 500 jobs back? Or do we just do nothing and ignore the traffic implications? And then when our constituents are complaining about gridlock, we'll say, well, geez, we listened to you. You know, I would argue, quite frankly, that we have done our jobs. The fact of the matter is, I think you've done a particularly poor job in looking at how things get connected and how they work. Well, you can laugh, because I'm laughing at you, Mr. Tripp. And I didn't want to mention you by name, but frankly, you've been against everything. You have been against everything. And yet, everybody around here is trying to put the pieces in place to make things happen. I can't make it happen with a snap of a finger. It won't work. But what I can do is create an environment where we're trying to help small businesses and large ones. Why is it important? We had a discussion about EMS tonight. By and large, that is funded by income tax. And without income tax, then we're confronted with very difficult challenges. Do we raise more income tax? Well, you got to go to the voters for that. Or do we discontinue the service? Or discontinue a service? You know, Larry, all kidding aside, you come with no solutions. You know, it's like tonight. You stand up here and say, nobody read the community survey. Well, you were surprised because people have. We have. And in fact, Ben notes that I have done more than just read it. And I think the rest of council has too. You heard mentioned tonight a dog park, prominently featured. One of our asks. We looked at it for communication. And what we discovered was there is a communications issue that we're not really sure how we can get our arms around. But it's there. And one of the things we've discovered is that advertising in the rep as part of that communications isn't particularly effective. So, you know, all kidding aside, Larry, I think you need to give people a little more credit than what you give them. And at the end of the day, I think all of us are trying to create this robust community. Let me close on this. This group, and I'm going to come back to Mr. Osborne in a second. This group knows one thing. No action, the no action option will give you 12th and Fulton. You're 20 years behind it. It's coming. Unless you can figure out a way to maintain this community. It doesn't mean that, well, we want to be Hudson. I don't think we're ever going to be Hudson. But what we can get is a vibrant Main Street with some businesses large and small. And I think that's the vision. But the vision isn't helped when we have people who don't bother to think. Now, one more thing. This school business, Mr. Osborne, there's a board of education. It's their decision, not this body's. There were 3 members up this time. Nobody ran. You had a committee. You could have taken one of those individuals, gotten a petition, and put them on the board. Mm-hmm. You neglected to do it. So don't stand here and say, this is my responsibility, because it is not. We are working with the school system. Now, hold on a second here. We listen to you all the time.
Yeah, you had your time.
I get the last word. Put somebody on the Board of Education. Let them attend 1 meeting a month. It's a huge burden. You didn't do it. Don't complain to me if they're not responsive. I'm here for one reason, because
North Canton has important attributes to be viewed as a cool spot to live. They're walkable, safety, good schools, field, parks, the full build-out of the live-work kind of thing. Now, he's saying a lot of this stuff, so he believes that this town is worth that. The development of the property should be aligned with the current future needs of the community, and what else does he have? So how can we best help him? He's going to try to get his historic tax credits still. They ran out, and he's trying to get that. We're on our way to possibly getting him what he needs. He needs some type of grants and so on. We have to work with everybody to get that. That's the day we have tax credits is the day we resume the project. He mentioned that. So when we get these tax credits, let's see what here. When IRG gets the capital stack, which means his tax credits and some incentives that we have, we could finish the project in 6 to 12 months, or get going with the project 6 to 12 months. He cares a lot about this project, and it's not going away. So he said a lot of good things, that we're still in the game here. So those who think that it's just going to sit there and go away, have better faith, I guess. So this was at a meeting that we have. It's called Talk About Potential. It's called TAP Group. And Randy Smith invited him. I made sure he got there. And, again, I've met him many times for lunch. He's a really good guy. I'm going to hold him to that, but we got to help him. We got to help him get there. And that doesn't mean just give him all kinds of money. That means we got to find every little piece that we can, just like every other community is doing, to get what they need. So I hope we can move forward on that. Any questions about that?
I do. I have some questions. During the meeting, was a dollar value attached to this?
Nope, we didn't talk any dollars at all, unless you know something different than I know. There wasn't a dollar mentioned.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, he was asking, they're going for $5 million of historic tax credit. He was asking 3% commitment from the city in support of that,
3% of 5 million?
of $5 million, which would be $150,000. I'm already working on a plan for assembling that, hopefully with not much cost to the city.
So,
Even at that.
well, I mean, 5 million is not going to, it's a start. I'm not going to call it a good start, but hold on, it's a start. I guess the point I'm getting to is I think we all know right around what this is going to cost, and it's going to be up there. And I'm sure, listen, I've never met Stu, and but based on what has happened in the past, especially with the EB5 loan and that 23 million, 25 million, we didn't see a dime of that at all.
We're going to come with that just
I mean, and I understand there may have been some other factors, but, you know, I'm a little cynical at this point. And I do understand why he thinks the original project is the best way to go, because the alternative is to tear that whole face down at a cost probably to exceed what it would take to develop it. So, listen, I'm hopeful, but I'm very cynical, and I really think, I know this 3% of 5 million, the city's contribution, $150,000. Listen, I'm not a finance guy, but I guarantee you the city's portion is going to be a lot more than that. Darrell, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. To answer your question, I think the project estimate ranges between $45 and $50 million in total. He would look for public assistance in probably two forms. The first would be through the historic preservation tax credit. The second would be the use of the downtown redevelopment district. The ratio of assistance could range up to 75% or 100, I think, if the school wants to come on board. The downside to using that is that the day we start the clock is the day that program begins running. So if there are delays and that sort of thing, that could be problematic.
So what do you think, let me ask you this, give me you don't have to be specific, but a round estimate on what kind of funds could be raised.
Well, let's
with that
look at, and this is a really good example, let's look at Akron Children's, all right? That was a $10 million investment. The tax yield on that was in the range of $250,000 a year, okay? So take 10 times 4.
Tax to increase for the schools.
Yeah, it's the bulk of it's going to the schools.
Yeah, but how it
okay?
affects us.
But the point is that the yield, now remember, on the door, you're going to take that money and you're going to move it through the city and perhaps give it to the developer in some fashion, all right, on a performance basis. Unlike a CRA where he just gets to write it off, he's got to pay the tax on the door, okay? Or DRD, I'm sorry. He's got to pay the tax, and then it would come back to him. It could come back to him in some percentage, okay? Depending upon the agreement that you have. So you've got a couple of moving parts. You need, where's the school? A. B is, what are you willing to fund? And then under what terms? So you're going to want a contract, all right? Because you're going to be writing a check to him or the entity. To come back to your point, $250,000, probably worth $1 million a year in tax if you got all 100% of it. Over 10 years,
$10 million.
it's $10 million.
So
what you've got is basically what we've looked at under the CRA, which is, can you discount a project 15 to 20%? Does that put it in the feasible range? And that doesn't include his historic preservation tax credit.
All right, so if I'm hearing this correctly, historical preservation in the $5 million range, through the DRD, $1 million a year over 10 years, that's 10, we're at 15. Project, you just said, is anywhere between, what, 45 and 50? What about the other remaining 35
Well,
million?
he's going to have to borrow that, and that's his capital stack. And you put your finger on it. He's got a lot of properties around that he's borrowing money on.
So he's a businessman, and he's going to borrow 35 million on a unit that's going to have, how many units, how many housing units?
130, and at 250, it's like 32 million anyhow. You know what I'm saying? So the loss leader for him is the single-family lofts, because I remember talking to him before about this, and now with the way things are with the economy, it's a little more difficult to try to make the numbers work, because initially he was thinking in the twos to create a project, you know, to be a rental for 5 years, and then be potentially a condo after that, and then you could recover some of that money. So that's really the lost leader for him.
Well, he was required to do that because historical credit, right?
The historical credit, that's right. You have to rent it for 5 years before it becomes condo.
Now, let me ask you this, the total value that you referenced as far to renovate that, does that include all the surrounding stuff he's going to have to do, parking and whatever else?
Yes, he's going to have a complete.
But that's included in that
It should
45,
be,
50
because
million?
he's going to need
But we don't know that.
parking.
But can we
It
not
should.
waste any more time talking about this right now?
Yeah, just,
But just to, excuse me, just say before I lose,
I know, I just don't know
lose
if right
this
now
thought
is
here.
the time.
We have not
'cause all we're
seen.
doing is speculating. We
Yeah.
don't
We
know
have
where
not
it's
seen-
getting financed, we don't know what we can do, and we've been doing that for 10 years.
Right, yeah.
We have not seen a plan.
Right.
know.
So that's why I don't know why we're like guessing.
I know,
right
and
now.
all I'm doing, it is guess, but you're right.
is
All I'm
Yes.
doing is,
report,
all I'm,
and
all I'm doing is just highlighting where we were at 10 years ago. We are in the exact same spot, and
Yes. I know what you
those
were
questions
doing.
haven't been answered
I know what you were doing.
in 10 years. So, okay, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, I'm just giving you the report, how it
Yeah.
came in. Do we want it to, do we want to move forward? I'm sure we do. We could sit here and just let it sit like it's been, and, like I said, he's got 100 of these. Do you think he's going to move on this if he's got other people he's moving on? So we need to help him. We need to get that moving.
But he has to ask too. I mean, he has to have specifics. He hasn't given us any specifics. So when he worked with the hall, there were specifics. So for him to say, oh, I want grants or I want this, well, he needs to move on it as well and give us specifics. You gave us no numbers. You just said, well, he's interested. He knows it's a good market. We know houses, real estate's difficult. But he's going to be up against other real estate because things have sold downtown. So he knows that. So he has to do something as well.
Here's the
And
point.
he's been a great community
Is
member.
that-
I agree. He has. But tell us what you want, Stu. I've met him too.
This is the number one, we could have 10 master plans, and every master plan would say.
It is. It's
this.
the only thing they
No
talk
matter
about.
what we do, we could buy 5 Kmart's, we
You're
could
right.
do whatever we want.
So tell him
But
that at that
this is
meeting,
what-
it was the one table everybody huddled around. What
Yeah.
does he want us to do?
Yeah.
What does he need?
That's what I'm saying.
Lay out the
So we need
plan.
to get together with him and talk about it.
Lay
And
out
I think we
the
have been
plan.
doing that. So-
Okay.
It's the number one item, yet 10 years later, we still have unanswered questions.
And I'll tell you, if Mr. Tripp were here, it was when I looked at the community surveys and I pulled all the worse than in the past, and I looked at those, Hoover was probably number one.
Right.
But here's the point, is that when you look at this council over the last 36 months, it has done virtually everything it can under Ohio law to create an assistance for that project. It is all ready, it is all in place, whether it's zoning, whether it's the DRD, or whether it's the DORA for any restaurant that he might be able to attract, or restaurants that he can attract.
And when it
The grass.
stalls, we move to other areas of our community to try to grow.
That is
which would
absolutely
help him.
correct.
So he can thank us for those other properties we have bought.
That's correct. The
let's
fact
move
of the
on.
matter is, and I won't belabor it, I do have a PowerPoint on this.
Main Street Business District.
Yeah, but the point is that people say, what's happened? The first of all is this, is that we've done a lot. The two things that we can't do anything about are air quality. He couldn't meet attainment standards until recently. So that issue is off the table, apparently.
It is.
Number two is this, I can't help him with his capital stack.
Exactly.
He had money. Okay?
Let's move on.
I can't help you.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
unless and until somebody shows up with $35 or $40 million, unless you all want to get in the lending business,
No, that's
Gina,
the way projects
can we lend
work.
you money?
The cities don't do that.
I don't think you want to.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mark.
That it?
Member Stroya?
I'd like to spend about the next 20 minutes
Stop.
doing
That's why I have to intervene.
Thanks for speaking, Chuck and Larry. I wanted to thank all the people that were involved in the luminaries on Portage Street. If you guys have never had a chance to walk that, it is amazing. It's an experience. It's very cool. And buy and support local. That's all I have.
All right. Okay, final call for new business?
None.
All right, meeting calendar for the remaining month of September. We have committee of the whole on the 20th, city council on the 27th, and let me jump ahead real quick. Just to remind everyone, we have, well, where was it? I had it. Budget. We are discussing the budget on October 18th. First reading is this is October. First reading is the 25th. Second reading is November 8th. Third reading is November 22nd, which brings me to the meeting, October 11th, which is Columbus Day. I would like to cancel that meeting. I don't think we're going to need that. And the November 15th. It's far enough in advance if we need to move that, double up committee meeting. So motion and a second to cancel the October 11th and November 15th.
I move we approve the calendar as presented.
Thank you. Approve.
Is there a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the agenda this evening. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Well, give me a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? We are adjourned.
Wow, that was
Hey, and
something.
Jeff, I have a meeting next week, next week, but you don't need me for anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing going through.
That's fine.
and all that.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was 36.